Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
On the night of our wedding anniversary, my wife was kissing another man in a restaurant. I filmed the whole thing. But to understand how we ended up there, I need to go back a few hours. Benjamin had just adjusted the last candle on the table when his phone vibrated in his dress pants pocket. It was 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday he'd been looking forward to for weeks. The dining room table was flawless, a white linen tablecloth they'd bought together on a trip to Charleston 3 years earlier, the crystal glasses they'd received as wedding gifts, and vanilla-scented candles Vanessa loved. Their favorite Italian restaurant had confirmed their dinner reservation for 7 o'clock, handmade pasta, tiramisu, and a bottle of Chianti Classico. Benjamin smiled, imagining the look of surprise on her face when she walked in and saw all of it. 8 years. 8 years of marriage deserved a celebration worthy of the occasion. The message was from her. Don't wait for me. I made plans to have dinner with a friend tonight. Sorry for the last-minute notice. Benjamin read it twice, feeling something strange settle in his chest. It was too polite. Too distant for someone who knew what day it was. He looked at the decorated table, the unlit candles, the bouquet of pale pink peonies that had cost $80 at the downtown florist. He typed a reply. Which friend? I planned something special for us tonight. The 3 typing dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Her response took almost 2 minutes. Jenna. We've had this planned for a while. Sorry, I forgot to tell you earlier. Benjamin frowned. Jenna was Vanessa's college friend, but they lived in different cities and rarely saw each other. Besides, Vanessa always gave advance notice when she had plans. Always. She was too organized, too meticulous even about small things. Forgetting to mention a dinner with a friend? And especially today? He checked the clock. Vanessa had left the office at 4, as usual. She worked as HR director at a tech company in downtown Atlanta and kept predictable hours. Benjamin was a civil engineer and had taken the afternoon off specifically to set up the surprise. 8 years. She couldn't have forgotten. Or could she? He sat on the couch, phone still in hand, rereading the message. There was something off about the tone, cold, distant. Over the past few months, Vanessa had been acting differently, spending more time on her phone, sudden outings for work happy hours, whole weekends claiming she was too tired for any plans together. Benjamin had tried talking to her a few times, but she always deflected, blaming work stress or exhaustion. He'd believed her. Trusted her. But now, staring at the empty table and the cold message on his screen, something inside him clicked. He'd promised himself he'd never use his phone's location tracking to spy on her. But that night, he no longer believed anything she said. He opened the location app on his phone. They'd installed it 2 years earlier after Vanessa's car had been stolen from a parking lot, and she'd spent hours trying to contact her insurance company without knowing the exact location. Ever since, they'd kept the trackers active. It was a safety measure, she'd said herself. Benjamin rarely checked it. He trusted her. Until now. The map loaded slowly. Vanessa's blue dot blinked on the screen, stationary at an address in the Buckhead neighborhood. Benjamin zoomed in. It wasn't Jenna's house. It was a restaurant, an Italian place called La Dolce Vita, 20 minutes away. The same kind of place he'd ordered takeout from to serve at home. A coincidence? Benjamin grabbed his car keys. Traffic was heavy, typical for a Friday night in Atlanta, but he didn't care. He drove on autopilot, his mind spinning in circles. Maybe it really was Jenna. Maybe they were at that restaurant because Jenna liked Italian food. Maybe he was just being paranoid, jealous without reason. But then why hadn't Vanessa mentioned the restaurant? Why had the message been so curt? And why today, of all days? He parked 2 blocks away and walked slowly toward La Dolce Vita. The restaurant had large glass windows facing the street, soft lighting, and tables with red tablecloths. Benjamin stopped outside near a tree and looked in. He almost left. He almost chose uncertainty over truth. But he stayed. Because something told him he needed to see it with his own eyes. It took him 5 seconds to find her. Vanessa was seated at a table in the back, facing away from the window, but he'd recognize that dark brown hair anywhere. She wore the navy blue dress he loved, the one she reserved for special occasions. She was laughing. Laughing loudly, her head tilted slightly back, her hand touching the arm of someone sitting across from her. Benjamin took a step forward, his heart racing. The man with her was tall, blonde, broad-shouldered. He wore a white dress shirt and smiled back at Vanessa with an intimacy that made Benjamin's stomach twist. He knew that face. He'd seen it in old photos, in albums Vanessa kept in a box in the closet. Blake. Her ex-fiancé. Blake, the man she'd sworn was the biggest mistake of her life. Blake, who'd treated her badly during their engagement and made her cry countless times before they broke up months before their wedding. Blake, whom she'd said she never wanted to see again. Benjamin pulled out his phone and started recording. Through the phone screen, he watched Vanessa lean across the table, still laughing, and Blake do the same. They were too close, too intimate to be just old acquaintances. Blake said something and Vanessa covered her mouth, her eyes sparkling. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, Blake cupped her face with both hands and kissed her. It wasn't a quick kiss. It wasn't a goodbye or friendly kiss. It was long, passionate, the kind that leaves no room for doubt. Benjamin filmed it all. 30 seconds that felt like an eternity. When they finally pulled apart, Vanessa was smiling, that smile that used to be his alone. Blake held her hand on the table, fingers interlaced. Benjamin stopped recording and put his phone away. His hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness. It was anger, pure, cold, and controlled. He waited a few more seconds, taking deep breaths, organizing his thoughts. Then he pushed open the restaurant door and walked in. The place was crowded, noisy with lively conversations and soft Italian music in the background. No one noticed as Benjamin walked straight to their table. Vanessa had her back turned, still laughing at something Blake had said. Benjamin stopped beside the table, hands in his pockets, and waited. Blake saw him first. His smile vanished instantly, replaced by pure panic. Vanessa noticed the change and turned her head. When her eyes met Benjamin's, she froze. Her face, flushed and happy just moments before, turned pale in seconds. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Benjamin," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "Hi, Vanessa," he replied, his voice too calm, dangerously calm. "Couldn't Jenna make it?" She blinked quickly, tears already welling in her eyes. I can explain." "You can?" Benjamin pulled one hand from his pocket and gestured vaguely toward Blake, who looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. "Please, explain. I'm curious." "It's not what it looks like," Vanessa began, her voice faltering. "Blake's in town, and we just met up to talk. As friends. About the past. Nothing more." Benjamin nodded slowly, as if seriously considering her explanation. "Friends. Of course." He looked at Blake. "Do you always kiss your friends like that?" Blake opened his mouth to respond, but Benjamin raised a hand, cutting him off. "Actually, I don't care what you have to say. This is between me and my wife." Vanessa was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "Benjamin, please." "Two lies," he said, his voice still unsettlingly calm. "First, you said you were going out with a friend. I don't see any Jenna here. I just see Blake, the ex-fiancé you swore you hated." Second, Benjamin pulled his phone from his pocket and showed her the screen. The video was paused on the exact moment of the kiss. I filmed you two kissing. Vanessa's face went even paler. Blake muttered a quiet curse under his breath. And there's a third, Benjamin continued, putting the phone away. Today is our wedding anniversary. 8 years, Vanessa. I planned a special dinner for us at home. Bought your favorite flowers. Ordered food from your favorite Italian restaurant. Spent the whole afternoon setting everything up. He paused, letting the words sink in. And you simply forgot. Vanessa sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Benjamin, No, he interrupted, his voice still steady. You're not. If you were, you wouldn't be here. If you were, you'd have remembered our anniversary. If you were, you wouldn't have lied. Blake finally found the courage to speak. Man, look, I didn't know you two were still together. She said. Shut up, Benjamin said without even looking at him. His eyes stayed locked on Vanessa. How long? She lifted her face, eyes red and swollen. What? How long have you two been seeing each other? Vanessa hesitated, and in that hesitation, Benjamin got his answer. It wasn't the first time. It wasn't an impulsive mistake or a moment of weakness. It was something planned, something ongoing. Answer me, he insisted. A few months, she admitted, barely audibly. Benjamin nodded, as if he'd already known. And in a way, he had. The pieces now fit, the strange phone calls, sudden outings, emotional distance. It all made sense. A few months, he repeated. While I was planning our anniversary, you were planning this. People at nearby tables began noticing the tension. Conversations died down, heads turning discreetly. Benjamin didn't care. Let them look. Let them see. Vanessa reached out toward him, but Benjamin took a step back. Don't touch me. Please, Benjamin. We can talk. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but... A mistake, he cut in, his voice finally cracking with raw emotion, pure anger. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is leaving the lights on. This? He gestured between her and Blake. This isn't a mistake. It's a choice. You chose to lie. Chose to betray. Chose to be here with him instead of home with me on our anniversary. Blake abruptly stood, nearly knocking over his chair. I'll let you two talk. He tossed some bills on the table and hurried out without looking back. Coward, Benjamin thought. Exactly the kind of man Blake had always been. Now it was just the two of them. Vanessa stood too, hands trembling, her face a mess of smudged makeup and despair. Benjamin, please. I love you. I love you. This thing with Blake, it was a temporary insanity. He reached out to me a few months ago and I don't know why I answered. It was a terrible mistake. But I love you. You love me? Benjamin asked, and there was something cruel in the way he said it. Funny. You have a very interesting way of showing love. I'll end it with him, Vanessa pleaded. Now. Today. I'll never see him again. We can go to couples therapy. We can start over. Please, don't give up on us. Benjamin looked at her for a long moment. He saw the woman he'd married 8 years ago, the woman who'd promised to love him in joy and sorrow, in health and sickness. He also saw the stranger before him, the woman who'd lied, cheated, and forgotten their wedding anniversary to be with another man. Don't come home, he finally said, his voice low but firm. You won't be allowed in any more. Vanessa's eyes widened. What? Benjamin, no. I'll leave your things in the garage by noon tomorrow. You can pick them up. After that, I'm changing the locks. You can't do this. I can. And I will. Benjamin slipped off his wedding band, the white gold band he'd worn faithfully for 8 years, and placed it on the table next to her barely touched plate of pasta. My lawyer will contact you on Monday. He turned to leave, but Vanessa grabbed his arm. Benjamin, wait. Please. We can fix this. I made a mistake, but you can't just throw away 8 years like this. Benjamin looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. I'm not throwing anything away, Vanessa. You already did that for both of us. He gently pulled free and walked toward the door. Benjamin, she cried, her voice breaking. Benjamin, please. He didn't look back. The walk to his car was a blur. Benjamin got in, shut the door, and sat in silence for several minutes. His hands were still shaking when he finally started the engine. He drove home on autopilot, his mind strangely empty. When he arrived, the house was exactly as he'd left it, the table still set, candles unlit, flowers still fresh. Benjamin looked at it all and felt a sharp pang of something that might have been sadness, anger, or just exhaustion. He picked up his phone and called Tom, his best friend since college. Benjamin. Hey, man. How's the celebration going? I need a favor, Benjamin said, ignoring the question. Can you come over and help me pack some things? A pause. Pack what? Vanessa's stuff. She doesn't live here anymore. Another, longer pause. I'm on my way. Tom showed up 40 minutes later with cardboard boxes and packing tape. He didn't ask questions when Benjamin gave him the basics, the lie, the ex-fiancée, the filmed kiss. He just nodded and started helping pack clothes, shoes, beauty products, anything that was hers. It took them 3 hours to empty the closet, dresser, and bathroom. Benjamin worked mechanically, without emotion, packing pieces of Vanessa's life into labeled boxes. Some things, wedding photos, gifts they'd exchanged, he set aside. He didn't yet know what to do with them. You okay? Tom asked at one point, stacking the last box in the garage. Benjamin shrugged. I will be. They sat on the back porch, each with a beer in hand, comfortable in silence for a long time. It was Tom who finally spoke. She'll try to come back, you know. I know. And you? Won't answer. Tom nodded, satisfied. Good. Vanessa did try, of course. She called 12 times that night. Benjamin blocked the number. She messaged him on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. He blocked them all. She showed up at the house Saturday morning, knocking on the door, begging to talk. Benjamin didn't open it. He called Tom again, and together they placed the boxes on the curb for her to collect. Through the window, Benjamin watched her carry the boxes to her car, one by one, crying uncontrollably. He felt something, pity, maybe. But not enough to change his mind. On Monday, as promised, his lawyer reached out. The divorce process officially began. Vanessa hired a lawyer too, but there wasn't much to dispute. They had no kids. The house was in Benjamin's name, bought with money he'd saved before marriage. Their cars were in separate names. The lawyer handled the paperwork. The hard part wasn't the divorce. The hard part was coming home to a house that still carried her scent. Benjamin tried to stick to a routine. He'd wake up, go to work, come home. But the house now felt strangely empty, echoing a life that no longer existed. He avoided the dining room, he could still smell the vanilla candles he'd lit that night. Tom dragged him out on weekends, bars, basketball games, backyard barbecues with friends. Benjamin went, but he was only physically present. His mind was always elsewhere. On Vanessa. He hated it. Hated thinking about her, hated wondering where she was, who she was with. He tried not to look her up on social media, but some nights, when the silence of the house became too heavy, he gave in and checked. That's how he found out. 3 weeks after the restaurant confrontation, Vanessa posted a photo on Instagram. She was smiling, hugging Blake on some beach. The caption read, "Fresh starts." There were hundreds of comments, some supportive, others critical, most from people who clearly didn't know the whole story. Benjamin felt a knot in his stomach. So that was it. She'd chosen Blake. Chosen the man who'd made her cry years ago, the man who'd treated her badly during their engagement. Chosen him over the husband who'd planned an anniversary dinner and never raised his voice to her. He closed the app and didn't reopen it for weeks. The divorce was finalized in record time, 3 months. No kids, no disputes, just signed papers. Benjamin didn't attend the hearing. He let his lawyer handle everything. Vanessa didn't show up either. It was as if they both just wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. On the day the papers were officially signed, Benjamin went out to dinner with Tom and some co-workers. They drank more than they should have, laughed louder than necessary, and Benjamin pretended he was okay. He pretended so well he almost believed it himself. Life went on. Work kept him busy. He accepted a big project in Savannah that required frequent travel. It was good to leave Atlanta, good to have an excuse not to be home, good to lose himself in architectural blueprints and construction schedules. It was on one of those trips, 4 months after the divorce, that Benjamin met Rachel. She was a landscape architect hired for the same project, a tall redhead with an easy smile. They started working together, then having lunch together, and eventually dinner together. Rachel didn't ask about his past, and Benjamin didn't offer details. It was refreshing, a clean slate, a chance to just be Benjamin, not Benjamin, the betrayed husband. They didn't rush things. They took it slow, naturally. And for the first time in months, Benjamin caught himself genuinely smiling. 6 months after the divorce, Benjamin was at a cafe near his office when he saw Vanessa. She was across the street, standing on the sidewalk, looking at her phone. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, her hair in a messy ponytail. She looked tired. Smaller somehow, as if she'd shrunk. Benjamin felt the urge to cross the street, to ask how she was. But then a woman appeared beside her, blonde, elegant, angry. They started arguing. Benjamin couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language was clear. The blonde woman was furious, gesturing dramatically, and Vanessa was crying. Benjamin frowned. Who was that woman? It wasn't until a man approached, Blake, that it all made sense. The blonde woman turned to him, shouted something Benjamin couldn't make out, and slapped him across the face. Blake didn't even react. He just stood there, head down. The blonde woman was Blake's wife. Benjamin felt the ground vanish beneath him. Wife. Blake had been married. During the entire affair with Vanessa, through all those lies and secret meetings, Blake had a wife. And Vanessa clearly hadn't known. The blonde woman now turned to Vanessa, saying something short and cutting before shoving Blake toward a parked car. Vanessa stood alone on the sidewalk, silently crying as the car drove away. Benjamin watched a few seconds longer. Part of him felt satisfaction, poetic justice, karma, revenge without lifting a finger. But another part, a smaller part he tried to ignore, felt pity. Vanessa looked around, as if searching for someone, for something. For a brief moment, her eyes passed over the cafe where Benjamin sat, but she didn't see him through the glass. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and started walking, shoulders slumped, posture defeated. Benjamin finished his coffee and left. He didn't cross the street. Didn't call out to her. He simply turned and walked the other way. 2 weeks later, he received a message from Vanessa. It was their first direct communication since the divorce. I know I have no right to talk to you. I know I ruined everything. But I need you to know I'm truly sorry. More than you'll ever imagine. I was a fool. Blake was married. He was never going to leave his wife. I lost you for nothing. I lost the best man I've ever known to a coward who never loved me. I hope you're happy, Benjamin. Truly. You deserve it. Benjamin read the message 3 times. He considered replying. He thought about accepting her apology, or saying he was happy, or telling her she deserved happiness too. He thought about asking how she was, if she needed anything. But in the end, he simply archived the message and never replied. A year after the divorce, Benjamin proposed to Rachel. It was simple, without much fanfare, a quiet dinner at home, a sincere question, an emotional yes. They married 3 months later in a small ceremony in Savannah, with only close family and intimate friends. Benjamin didn't invite Vanessa. He didn't even think of her during the ceremony. He was happy. Truly. Life with Rachel was light, without drama, without lies. She knew him, knew his past, his scars, and loved him anyway. Together, they built a new life rooted in trust and honesty. Sometimes, on quiet nights, Benjamin thought about that wedding anniversary. He thought about the decorated table, the unlit candles, the dinner that never happened. He thought about how one single lie, one single kiss, had completely changed the course of his life. And then he'd look at Rachel sleeping beside him and realize that, in a strange and painful way, Vanessa had done him a favor. She'd set him free. Free from a marriage built on shaky foundations, from a woman who didn't value him, from a life that seemed perfect but was rotting from within. What she'd done was unforgivable, and the pain she caused was real. But Benjamin had learned something valuable. True love doesn't involve lies, doesn't involve forgetting, doesn't involve choosing someone else on your anniversary. True love is waking up every morning and choosing to be there. It's remembering important dates. It's valuing the person beside you. It's Rachel, not Vanessa. And Benjamin finally, truly, moved on. 5 years after the divorce, Benjamin was at an engineering conference in Chicago when he saw Vanessa for the last time. She was across the hotel lobby, checking something at the front desk. She looked older, her face marked by time and, Benjamin imagined, regret. She saw him too. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Benjamin saw recognition, maybe a flicker of sadness or nostalgia. But he simply nodded slightly, a polite greeting, nothing more, and kept walking. There was no anger left. No bitterness. Just indifference. And in that indifference, Benjamin found his peace. She'd destroyed him. But in doing so, she'd set him free. Sometimes, you have to lose what you thought was love to finally find the real thing. And Benjamin found it. With Rachel, he built something Vanessa never gave him: absolute trust, genuine partnership, love without lies. That forgotten anniversary eventually became, with time, the best gift Vanessa could have given him, even if she'd never understand it. It was the day everything collapsed, but also the day his real life began. Benjamin learned that the end of something bad is always the start of something better. And every time he looked at Rachel, every time they celebrated another anniversary together, he always remembered, always planned, always made it special. He silently thanked her for having the courage not to turn back that night at the restaurant. Because true love doesn't forget. Doesn't lie. Doesn't betray. And Benjamin finally had that. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.